Well, hello everyone, and thanks, Ken. Thanks for getting all this set up. It's certainly a different year for us, but we've been able to accomplish a lot of things and get a lot of things done in our industry, despite of the many hardships and different ways of doing business. I'll just start with some little rundown on the national scene. Obviously, today's a big day in our nation with the inauguration. We're hopeful that things will be peaceful and that there'll be a peaceful and honorable transfer of power. And I trust that'll happen today. So with just a little comment on kind of the setup of some of the politics and some of the things we're watching. So the Senate will be in a 50-50 tie, and you all know that in that case, then the vice president serving as the president of the Senate breaks the tie. So the Democrats will, in essence, have control of the Senate. There were a couple of folks who questioned previously about two members who are independents, that have no party affiliation. But those two independent members caucus with the Democrats, so that gives the Democrats 50 votes. With that, Debbie Stabenow will be the chairman of the Senate Ag Committee. She is certainly a friend of sugar. She's from Michigan. She's been a staunch sugar supporter. So hopefully, all of that will work okay for us. On the House side, David Scott from Georgia will become the chairman of the House Ag Committee. We think that he's going to be okay. In some of his early days in Congress, he actually opposed a sugar policy, and that was primarily because of Coca-Cola and their giant presence in Atlanta. But on the last couple of farm bills, he certainly voted for the bill and voted for sugar policy. So he's kind of come around, and we expect good support from the chairman of the House Ag Committee too. So that kind of lays out the House and Senate for agricultural stuff. At USDA, Tom Vilsack, he's a known commodity for us. He treated us fairly with regards to administration of the sugar program in Washington when he was the prior Secretary of the Department of Ag. So we think that's good. Other things in Washington, they haven't completed all of the undersecretarial positions, so we're not exactly sure who will be ultimately over managing sugar policy, but we're hopeful that that'll be okay. The other big issue inside of cabinet positions that we're watching is the Secretary of Labor. The nominee is a fellow named Marty Walsh. He is from actually the Boston. He's the mayor of Boston. He has been a union boss in years past, so we'll see how that works. Anytime union folks are in control of the Department of Labor, it can tend to create some issues for us. Labor is some of our growers think and millers think that labor may be even more significant than sugar policy for us, and that puts us in a unique position because in sugar issues, we've got a whole team of people that deal with sugar issues. But when we're dealing with sugar and labor, Louisiana is the primary source or the primary group of sugar people that use immigrant labor. The other sugar people don't. So our ability to influence change within the H2A and H2B labor programs is very, very difficult. So we'll have to see. Cedric Richmond is really the only Democrat that is in the delegation, but he's giving up his seat and getting inside of the Democratic administration. We hope we can get that done through Cedric and his new position within the administration. We'll just have to wait and see how some of that phases out, works out for us. So that's kind of a rundown on things in Washington. We're certainly having to do things differently. We'll continue to do our fly-ins this year, but our fly-ins will be virtual fly-ins. So that's new for us. We'll see how that works, but we do have a good number of our growers and millers that'll be participating in our virtual fly-ins. Moving on to a few state items. One of the things that we've been working on in the last couple of months is the dig law provisions. We're trying to get some new provisions and some exemptions put in for agriculture with regards to the dig law and the provisions within which a farmer has to call to get the dig folks out to do to mark their lines and all of that kind of stuff. Right now, in essence, the law reads that anytime you're in a field doing any kind of agricultural cultivating or anything, you should be calling. And we don't want to operate outside of the law, so we're trying to work with them. Senator Allen has been very important with an important part of that in creating a study commission to come up with some kind of agricultural exemptions for that. We're getting close on it, and we'll see what happens. One other thing that's kind of caught some attention with regards to state issues, and this is primarily in West Baton Rouge Parish. You all have probably seen some of the solar stuff going in West Baton Rouge. There are some level of concern that these solar, they're called solar farms. Actually, we prefer to refer to them as a solar industrial plant. Are going in and consuming some sugarcane land. And as an organization, we have members who are on all sides of these issues, and we certainly stand for property rights. So we don't want to get out in front of any issues that our members may have interest in. So we're kind of gingerly walking around this. But if any of you know of landowners that are looking at these solar investment opportunities, there are some significant risks that they should be aware of. We've had a number of conversations with some of our attorneys regarding the risk, and our position is simply that we want to make sure that landowners and growers are completely familiar with the risk involved in these solar operations. They're talking about annual rental rates of $1,200 to $1,600 an acre, so cane land can't compete with that. But there are a number of issues that folks should be really cautious about. And first being financial performance and the ability of these investment groups to meet the financial requirements of the lease. And then if something goes wrong and a project bankrupts, the landowner can't even get onto his property to dispose of the units. And then how much disposal cost is there? How much decommissioning costs? Just a number of things. They need to get represented by some legal counsel that knows specifically about solar. And the legal bar doesn't know about this. There are only maybe one or two attorneys in the state that are really prudent at negotiating these leases. So I would just encourage you all, if you hear of anybody contacting you with regards to the opportunity to make a solar lease, make sure that they have adequate legal representation. These things are extremely complex. So a couple of things inside of the league. We're looking at a good year for us. Obviously, there's still a few mills that are processing cane, but we're going to be somewhere north of 16.5 million tons of cane, and that kind of tonnage obviously provides a strong revenue for the league. So we're looking at the best way to utilize the resources of our members. We've got a couple of ideas with regards to how we put member revenue and member dues to work. Herman and I have had a number of conversations about that, and hopefully we'll come up with some ways to make sure that we're investing proceeds appropriately, and that could mean some help in the research areas. Research is certainly the number one priority and platform for us, and we continue to work to strive to meet that mission. During the storms, Ken kind of mentioned a little bit of this in the start, but the year has certainly been one that's been a challenging one. And right after all of the storms, the first thing folks start talking about is what effect did the storm have? What did it do? What's the status of the crop? What do you expect your production to be? And our canned response is, we don't know yet. I mean, that Herman, I see Herman kind of grinning on the screen there. You know, after these events, we really don't know what has happened or what will happen. And I started thinking through, and I came up with this little maybe phrase or response that we could use. And it takes a year's worth of weather to either make or break a cane crop. And so right after the storms, we were talking about, you know, we don't know what it's going to be. We really have to see what the weather's going to be like after the storm. And it's turning out to be true. And really, we've been blessed by the weather. If you look at it over the term of a year, we are so very, very fortunate that we didn't have a killing freeze in early November, because this industry would really be in a jam. Right now, we probably wouldn't be harvesting cane right now, and there's still a nice bunch of cane out in the field. So we've been really fortunate. You know, if we had to write a script, we probably wouldn't have written it this way. But we're really fortunate that it's turned out to be the kind of crop that we've had. We'll bump right up against our raw sugar production records. And tonnage records, and we've had some areas of the belt that have had just extraordinary crops. Other areas are saying that maybe their crop is not quite as good, but all in all, it's still an above average crop, and we're very fortunate with regards to that. And in addition to the good crop, we've got pretty decent prices. I was just looking at some of the number 16 raw prices. I see Michael shaking his head, and then we're somewhere in the 27.5 cent range, and so I think folks, the mills and those folks are going to be able to capture decent pricing for us. So all in all, a pretty good year for Louisiana's sugar industry. With that, that kind of wraps up my remarks, Ken, and I'm certainly available to answer a few questions if folks have any.